home to Heathrow. Ruth Cadbury also chairs the all-party parliamentary group on Heathrow expansion. Ruth Cadbury, welcome to you. I think it was the Davies Commission, wasn't it, 2015, that said an expanded Heathrow would be a real driver for jobs. 60,000 would be created over time, 150 billion over 60 years or so, long-term stuff. But right now, in the wake of COVID, we need to look to expansionary measures like that, don't we?
Well, this decision, which, if it ever does go ahead, would mean the runway wouldn't be built for 10 or even 15 years, and there's an awful lot of hurdles it would have to go through. But that doesn't help the baggage handlers, the caterers, the cabin crew in my constituency and around Heathrow who've lost their jobs or had significant cuts to their earnings right now. And we need government help to aviation communities now to support those jobs, to provide support for skills for people whose jobs may not return, and also investment in green technology. We need this now because another runway is a long way off, but still means a fear that it may happen one day for residents locally, with all the impact of noise, congestion, and pollution, which your last story was about, hanging over us for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, you are again the idea of a third runway.
Yes, I've long said Heathrow should be better, not bigger. And aviation growth, particularly business travel, had been flatlining even before the start of this year. And I think the change in work patterns and people's attitudes towards their contribution to the climate crisis will mean that I think it'll be a long time, if ever, that aviation flying levels ever get back to where they were before. So, of course, Heathrow is a massive employer locally and a generator of our local economy and to the UK. But it's got to be in the context of a climate-constrained future, and a third runway shouldn't be part of that.
What do you say to those people who argue that technology will provide a solution in this? You don't need to stop the expansion. You need to make sure, for instance, that the planes that fly in and out of Heathrow are cleaner and greener. And the pace of change is happening all the while, isn't it? There was a story a few days ago about the idea of circular runways, perhaps as a way of minimising the space taken up by big airports and the amount of fuel used by planes.
Well, I think we're very many years off until we see a fully zero emission passenger aircraft of any size. And you've got to think about the energy that needs to go into providing that hydrogen or electric power to get it off the ground and to keep it in the air. So somebody said if we had electric aircraft, we'd need to double our production of electricity to provide the power for that. So it doesn't fit with a carbon constrained future. And the government has committed to 2050 net zero, but if it pursues supporting Heathrow Airport in building runway 3, it's going in the opposite direction. And aviation is a growing proportion of carbon emissions in the UK as other sectors do decline. But aviation has to play its part, because otherwise, if we are to seriously work towards zero emission by 2050, then other sectors are going to be paying the price for aviation going in the wrong direction.
What do you say to those people who point to Heathrow as a copper-bottomed example of just how almost impossible it is in the UK to expedite the really big infrastructure projects? I mean, the firm behind Heathrow would yet have to do the planning permission bit. The government would have to sign it off. All this in the wake of the fact that MPs have voted overwhelmingly a couple of years ago for Heathrow to expand. The whole process takes decades. Meanwhile, other countries, our big competitors, China, it's with it's a nod and the flash of a pen, and it's happening.
I think there are far higher priority infrastructure projects in the UK than a third runway, such as HS2 and bringing proper transport infrastructure investment into the north, and also addressing some of the problems we've got in London as well. But if the world is moving towards cutting carbon emissions, and also the other greenhouse gases that aircraft emit when they're flying. If we're to do this, then the whole world is going to be looking at reducing the dependency on aviation. As I said, business travel was already flatlining prior to this year. And I think so many more of us have realised we can do so much more business online as I am now without needing to have those face-to-face meetings. Of course, there will always be a need for aviation, both for business and for family connections and for tourism. But the level and the rate of expansion is going to prove increasingly unacceptable as we go on, and runway 3 is going to look more and more of a white elephant.
Ruth Cadbury, appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Now, the Court of Appeal has